I do. I think we've gotten exceedingly lucky that more bloodshed did not happen because the potential has been there from the start. And we got very lucky that the loss of life was, and as tragic as it is, that we saw on January 6th, the potential was so much more. Again, all we have to look at is the iconic images of that day with the gallows set up for Mike Pence, for the vice president of the United States, you know? And I do fear for this next election cycle because who knows what that might bring if a president that's willing to try to encourage, to whip up a civil war amongst his followers using lies and deceit and snake oil, and regardless of the human impact, what else is he going to do if he gets elected again? All bets are off at that point. And that's a scary notion. I have 3 daughters. I have a granddaughter. And I fear for the world that they will inherit if we do not start holding these people to account.
Fear for the world they will inherit. We got very lucky. That is not from a liberal. That is not from the left. That's a former oath keeper talking about the political violence that is to come and that we narrowly escaped on January 6th. That's Jason Van Tatenhove. He was a former spokesperson for the Oath Keepers, and he testified to the January 6th committee yesterday. He gave a glimpse into how it works, how they always sort of, say that we're like a community group that likes weapons rather than a militia. He also testified to the fact that he did eventually leave the group when they started talking about how the Holocaust was fake. But interestingly, for January 6th, and what we know was happening, and what we know what the Oath Keepers are going to say gave them the right to do what they did, was this notion that Donald Trump was going to anoint them essentially as like their paramilitary. So this is Jamie Raskin asking him about that Insurrection Act, which would have given them sort of that paramilitary power. And this is Jason's response.
What it was gonna be was an armed revolution. I mean, people died that day. Law enforcement officers died this day. There was a gallows set up in front of the Capitol. This could have been the spark that started a new civil war, and no one would have won there. That would have been good for no one. He was always looking for ways to legitimize what he was doing, whether by wrapping it in the trappings of it's not a militia, it's a community preparedness team. We're not a militia, we're an educational outreach group. It's a veteran support group. But again, we've got to stop with this dishonesty and the mincing of words and just call things for what they are. He's a militia leader. He had these grand visions of being a paramilitary leader, and the Insurrection Act would have given him a path forward with that.
And so he, in that statement, is Stuart Rhodes, the head of the Oath Keepers, former Army paratrooper, and he's basically saying that that they would call themselves, what was it, a veteran support group, Yasmin? And it's interesting that you have to hear it directly from the mouth of someone who was involved in it to truly have it sink in. And yet we've known about the growth of the Oath Keepers. We've known about them and their militias. I mean, honestly, at least since the 2017 Unite the Right rally.
Yeah, I thought it was really good that he said that he specifically said that we need to stop misleading people with our words, with the rhetoric, right? Because everyone else can see through it, but people who really want to believe that they're this paramilitary force or that they're, protectors of veterans or whatever he was saying, right? People who really want to believe that will believe that. And people who already think that they're on the side of good will think that they're on the side of good as long as they're not calling themselves certain things like racist or militias or white supremacists, right? Now, the significance of these 2 insurrectionists who testified here is that they were in it, right? They were men who fell into a hole, they admitted it, and they finally got themselves out. And thankfully they were able to do so. But a lot of people in similar situations, they can't do that, right? Especially even if they're not in it to the extent that they were involved in an insurrection. They're getting pressure from their friends, they're getting pressure from their families. They'll be shunned from various communities, whether in real life or online, if they speak out against their formerly held beliefs. And these are the same beliefs that they were once so vehement about that it's hard to walk those things back. And in a lot of cults and cult-like places, you see this same type of behavior. People are encouraged to just believe things that they can't see or things that don't make any sense to them. They're told that their blind faith will be rewarded, right? If they stick it out until the end, whenever or whatever that end actually is, and if it ever even comes.
Yeah.
They're promised redemption, some kind of reward, like they're gonna be Trump's paramilitary force. It's very difficult for people to get out of that, but it's good that people see these men who got out of it.
Yeah, and what's interesting, obviously, I mean, he's talking about going forward, and I think a lot of us looking at what's to come are rightfully concerned with what is going to be the outcome of these hearings when it comes to proving this link between the Oath Keepers and Donald Trump. And you see him saying, that's what Stuart Rhodes thought was going to happen. We have yet to see those direct communications, those direct meetings, and I hope those are going to be unfolding and coming out. But like, this guy is, he's a criminal, right? Donald Trump is an effing criminal. He cannot campaign or run again for president. I'm sorry. And the fact that we don't have anything on the books that says you can campaign from jail is a problem, right? So, there's a lot of bravery that's involved in testifying, especially when you used to cohort with white supremacists and neo-Nazis who are armed. So yeah, hats off to him.